Aloha. Welcome, board members, manager, to the August 24, 2020 regular board meeting for the Board of Water Supply. My name is Brian Andaya. I'm the board chair, and I'd like to take a moment at this time to take a roll call of the members in attendance. I do note all of the members today, board members today, are attending remotely via WebEx. So when I say your name, please say aye. Vice Chair Kapoa Pro.
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai.
Aye.
Board Member Ross Sasamura.
Aye.
And Board Member Max Sword.
Yeah.
And then, so let the record reflect, we have the presence of the members who confirm by voice their presence. We are waiting for Board Member Ray Soon, who will join us shortly. With me in the room today is Manager Ernest Lau, Board Secretary Joy Cruz Ashiu, Executive Secretary Deanna Tyson, who's actually in the next room, and she is in attendance via WebEx or video conferencing. And finally, Information Specialist Stephen Nordstrom. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin the meeting today, I'd just like to note that the Board of Water Supply is committed to being accessible and transparent and complying with the Sunshine Law while helping to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Some of the measures that you will notice we're taking starting with this board meeting. First of all, we are limiting physical presence at the meeting today to 5. All other participants will be either remote or waiting in the hallway. The meeting today will be viewable via live streaming on Facebook Live, facebook.com/BWS Honolulu/live. You can also view the meeting on our website at www.boardofwatersupply.com/live. Also on the phone, we have our Deputy Corporation Counsels, Mr. Jeff Flau and Ms. Jessica Wong. And today we have 4 agenda items requiring board action. I do note that because of an impending storm, we were forced to cancel our meeting last month in July. So please bear with us today. It will be a little longer of a board meeting than usual. The first item requiring board action today is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 22nd, 2020. I hope you've all had a chance, board members, to review the minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve at this time?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Member Sword and seconded by Member Butai to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held June 22nd.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I was not at the meeting on the 22nd, or June 22nd, so do I still, it wasn't myself that, I didn't second anything, but I believe it was somebody else.
That was Ross.
Or was that Ross?
Sasamura.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't there, so I should be technically seconded or at least allowed it.
Okay.
There's a point of order.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information. Let me strike earlier the motion and second. The motion was actually by Board Member Sasamura. Is that correct? Was that your motion?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it was moved by Member Sasamura, seconded by Member Butai for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held June 22nd, 2020. Is there any discussion on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I'll proceed to the question. We do have to take a roll call vote, unfortunately, because of the remote participation by our board members. So, Madam Secretary, please take a roll call. And on the floor it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 22nd, 2020.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapoa Sproat.
Aye.
Board Member Ray Soon. Oh, he's absent. Board Member Max Sword.
I'll abstain on this one. I wasn't there, that's why, sorry.
Board Member Ross Asamura,
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai.
Aye.
Thank you. Chair motion is passed with 3 ayes and 1 abstain.
Let the record reflect that I'm voting in favor as well, and that Member Soon was not present for that vote. I also would like the record to reflect that there were no testifiers by telephone. No testifiers. Thank you. Okay, so that is confirmed, no testifiers by telephone. The motion is passed and carried. All right, we're now going to move on to the next agenda item, to authorize a public hearing to consider a proposed amendment to its fiscal year 2020-2021 capital improvement CIP budget. Board recognizes Ms. Relin Nakabayashi.
Hello, Board Chair and members.
Excuse me, so let the record reflect that we now have Board Member Ray Soon joining us via WebEx.
Essentially, I'm here to present a presentation for you folks today, recommending that you authorize a public hearing for next board meeting date, so Monday, September 28th at 2 p.m. to consider a resolution to adopt a proposed amendment to the Capital Improvement Program budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending on June 30th, 2021. This is the proposed notice of public hearing that would be posted if you approve this today. Notes that the meeting would be September 28th, 2 p.m. here, and provides that the testimony can be submitted as follows: by mail, by email, online, and by telephone, and that we will not be accepting in-person testimony. So I'm going to get to my presentation now. So this is the proposed amendment we'd like for you to consider a public hearing on for fiscal year 20 to 21. So in May, you adopted Resolution 910, 2020, which appropriated $207.85 million in operating funds for the operating budget and $170.13 million for the Capital Improvement Program budget, which was a breakdown of $63.6 million in operating funds, $72.98 million in improvement funds, and $33.52 million in special expendable funds. So there will be no change to the operating budget, but we're seeking your approval to hold a public hearing on a budget amendment which would appropriate $201.29 million for CIP, which is a $31.46 million increase from the budget that was adopted with Resolution 910. And I'll be explaining the proposed changes in detail by fund on the following slides. Okay, so for the operating fund, we're proposing to remove the project line item for Haiku stairs. We're adding a new project line item for the Manana Base Yard Lab and Control Center expansion. And we're increasing the construction cost index account commensurate to these new construction projects, and also increasing the contract adjustments account for existing contract change orders and modifications to allow us to increase these projects. The increase in operating funds would be $5.5 million and would reduce the ending operating fund balance from $23.6 million to $18 million, which would be 32 days of working capital. I want to note, though, that the calculation for working capital doesn't include $12 million of Pro-Fi funds that are available to the BWS from the Drinking Water SRF program. If we receive all $12 million of funds, working capital would be adjusted to 53 days. Okay, so the first project that's being changed in the operating fund is the removal of the Haiku Stairs project.
Sorry, you meant the CIP, the FY21 CIP?
It is CIP, operating funded CIP.
Okay.
So the first project that was listed in the operating funded CIP was the removal of this Haiku Stairs project. And as many of you know, the transfer of Haiku Stairs to the city became effective on July 1st. Therefore, the funding that was programmed for the removal of the stairs is no longer needed. The added project is the Manana Courtyard Lab and Control Center expansion. That's going to increase the fiscal 2021 CIP by 3.3 million. And essentially, the pandemic has forced us to modify our operations. Secondary and backup sites were needed to maintain operations and the health and safety of our staff and to ensure the protection of our drinking water. We executed a design contract for this project in June, and we are applying for CARES funding to cover the design cost. And the design is being expedited, and we hope to have it completed by December of 2020. Okay. So this is just a picture on the screen of the Manana Courtyard and the open breezeway that currently exists in that building. The design project is designing the enclosure of this space to house the lab and the control center. So a secondary lab and control center at Manana makes sense for many reasons, some of which are the fact that Manana is already identified as our second departmental operations center in the event of a disaster. It's also, Manana is newer and more hardened than our Beretania campus. So if anything were to happen at Beretania, Manana is actually a better building to withstand any type of weather event. So why the lab specifically? It provides redundancy should our main water labs over here at Beretania go offline. If COVID-19 impacted Beretania, we'd have Manana to continue to operate out of. And this provides us additional and adequate space to socially distance our staff. A lab at Manana also increases our water testing capacity. Our microbiologists do take samples island-wide, so a lab at Manana reduces the amount of time between sample collection and testing for all the samples gathered in Central and West Oahu. It also reduces the drive time to collect and return these samples to the lab. Deploying from Manana also provides timely support to new construction projects, and there are many new developments happening in Central and West Oahu now. So why a control center at Manana? The control center houses a 24/7 operation here at Beretania to maintain and operate our water system. This is achieved through SCADA, which is secure and it's completely separate from our regular business servers and equipment. If we needed to reestablish SCADA connections at Manana, it could take, or due to damages at Beretania, it would take a lot of time to set that up. So having a secondary location, which is good to go, and all we needed to do would be to move staff, would be ideal. And as was mentioned just a few seconds ago, because the control center is a 24/7 operation, if we had some kind of COVID impacts to our control center staff or operations, it would take time to disinfect and clean that area, which we would not be able to do because we can't really shut down the control center as it is. So if we had a backup place at Manana, we could just move the healthy staff and take care of cleaning Beretania. Okay. So the contract adjustments account will be increasing by $2.3 million in fiscal 2020 to 2021. The contract adjustments account is used to provide additional funding for CIP projects and to provide funding for contract change orders to previously awarded contracts. So the original budget that you adopted in May was $15 million, but it didn't account for the following changes. Sorry, it's hard to talk with the mask. The we need to process a change order on the energy savings performance contract, a change order for Eva Shaft, a change order for Kaleloa desalination project, and the Makakilo water system improvements contract part 3. Okay, so the changes in improvement fund to the CIP would result in an increase of $4.62 million, and it's the addition of one project, the Lanikai water system improvements project part 2 for $4.2 million, and then an increase to the construction cost index account of 10% to account for this new construction project. So the increase in improvement funds of $4.62 million is covered by the excess proceeds from last year's bond issuance and would not require an increase in the new money needed to finance our fiscal 20 to 21 projects. So the Lanikai Water System Improvements Project Part 2 is a project for about 3,400 linear feet of pipeline, and the estimated construction cost is $4.62 million. It's these three areas highlighted with the red circles. So this project was requested by field operations based on their assessment of the existing pipe condition. The ages of the existing mains are mostly undetermined, but some of the parts that were identified were installed in 1944, making this pipeline about 76 years old. There are concerns with continuing to have to repair breaks on this line. Some of the mains are 10-inch diameter, which is a non-standard size. Some of the mains contain asbestos concrete pipe, which makes it more difficult to repair. And the repair of the pipe crossing Ka'elepulu stream has a major traffic impact, so that makes repair also much more difficult. And at the start of the design for this, there were 40 recorded main breaks or main failures within this project limit. So the reason we have to escalate or push this project up to fiscal 21, where it was previously scheduled for a future fiscal year, is because part of this project conflicts with DTS, Transportation Services Complete Streets project, and this is where Kailua Road meets South Kalaheo Avenue. DTS can't delay their project because of their federal funding commitments, but they're working with us to coordinate the section that's conflicting so that we can get our project done and they can also get theirs done. Okay. And the last increase is in the Special Expendable Fund of $21.34 million, and this increase is all related to an increase for the Kalawahine 180 reservoir. So the increase in Special Ex funds of $21.34 million is within the fund balance, and it does include the rebudgeting of funds that we lapsed in this prior fiscal year. Okay, so the project was initially budgeted over 2 fiscal years. Last fiscal year there was $12.83 million, and then this fiscal year there's $18.7 million budgeted for Kalawahine, for a total of $31.53 million. Solicitation went out in the 4th quarter of fiscal 20, but bids came in such that we didn't have sufficient funding to award the project. So funds are being rebudgeted in this current fiscal year at amounts sufficient to make the full award, which would total $40.04 million. Okay, so the Kalawahine project would help to alleviate existing potable water storage deficit in the Metro 180. This Metro 180 actually has the most significant current and future storage needs of 60 million gallons. So there are various alternatives offered to meet these needs. It would be new storage in Honolulu, new wells between Honolulu and Kahala, locating new infrastructure to the west of the Metro Low, or a combination of these alternatives. This project specifically will provide 2 million gallons of storage, which will improve the water system performance and reliability. Okay, so in summary, we're requesting the board authorize a public hearing to amend the fiscal 20 to 21 CIP budget to a total of $201,287,500, which is a $31.46 million increase from what you appropriated in May. The largest proposed increase in appropriation is from the Special Expendable Fund, which currently has sufficient funding to pursue the project, which is Kalawahine, without affecting operating funds. And the proposed increase in operating funds of $5.5 million is needed to pursue a project that was not originally identified. With COVID-19, we are needing to reevaluate and adjust our operations quickly. When CARES funds were released to the city, we capitalized on this opportunity by requesting funding for a design project at Manana, and so that That funding need not come from our ratepayers. Further, the cost of the construction project may be drinking water SRF eligible. And the proposed increase to improvement funds is needed now to move a project up from fiscal 21-22 due to the recently identified and discussed conflicts. We're using remaining proceeds from last year, though, to cover the cost of this project, so we need not issue more new money. Thank you.
Members, any questions?
A quick question for me, Brian. So the suggestion is to hold a public hearing on the 28th, right before our currently scheduled board meeting?
Correct.
Yeah, it's at the same time, I believe.
Yeah, just prior to the regular board meeting, we'd have convene a public hearing, take testimony, close the public hearing, and then start the regular meeting. And the board,
Okay.
the
So
board
we'll
can take an action to approve or disapprove.
Yeah, so we'll still start at 2 p.m. as
Still
scheduled.
start at 2 p.m.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay,
I have a couple of questions.
sure, go ahead.
First, Ernie, can you remind me what the difference is between the improvement fund and the special expenditure fund?
So I'll start with the special expendable fund, which is actually made up of a collection of the impact fees. So when people pay their water system facilities charge, the impact fee, that gets put into that special fund and it accumulates there.
Okay.
The improvement fund is basically operating revenue, rate revenue that comes in.
No, the improvement fund is the proceeds
Well,
of bonds.
I'm sorry.
They're
The-
bond proceeds.
The operating funded CIP uses rate revenue. The improvement fund uses revenue bonds that we float and sell, and that is used to
Okay.
fund projects also. So the Kalawahini project is funded through the special expendable fund.
Okay, Ray, did it cost us anything when you reprogrammed the Kalawahini money?
No, it doesn't cost us anything to push the project into this fiscal year instead of awarding the way we thought we would with last year and this year's money. There is a thought right now, because of the way the bids came in last quarter, that we may split the project into the reservoir itself and the connecting pipeline. So that's why we have a 53A and a 53B. And we're hoping to see a change in the, I guess, the cost coming down. That may result in some additional design cost to split the project into two packages. But we haven't yet finalized the decision to do so.
Actually, Ray, so when we put it out to bid last fiscal year, FY20. When we opened bids, all the bids came in over the budget, quite substantially over the budget. So what we're looking at possibly here is, instead of one large project, which we noticed was bid upon by the larger contractors, by splitting it into two pieces, one that was focused entirely with mostly pipeline, and the other part maybe some pipeline with the reservoir construction and site improvements, that we might actually have other contractors bid on the project when they held back because the project was larger and involved a reservoir. So we might actually enjoy better competitive pricing by splitting it into two projects. Haven't made the final decision yet, but it's something we're weighing heavily. We'll make the decision once the board, if the board approves.
You realize that you do invite problems of coordinating the improvements and determining if something goes wrong, who in fact was the contractor at fault.
We
I
understand.
like the idea. I think it's a great idea. It's just you do invite other issues.
Yeah. You know, when it's a large project that involves a lot of vertical construction at the reservoir, construction, 2 million gallon water tank with extensive site improvements. That's a kind of a different contractor also that can do that and pipeline versus contractors that are really specialized on pipeline work. There's a substantial amount of pipeline work on this project too. So yeah, it is, you're absolutely right. More complexity and coordination, but maybe more advantageous to our customers with better competitive pricing.
Okay, a couple other questions. There was such a broad-ranging presentation. The breezeway at Manana, when you designed the building originally, you put a breezeway in. So now you're gonna enclose it. What was the breezeway for?
So,
And are you creating any problems by enclosing the breezeway?
well, right now the breezeway is used kind of as a break area. So this is where our guys have lunch. There's a restroom located off of this, a kitchen located off the breezeway, and then some storage. By enclosing, yes, they're going to lose their space where they were having lunch previously, like their break room. But Ernie has instructed the designers to build something
So,
outside where they can continue to have their break space outside. But that area that we're looking at on screen now is going to be enclosed. We do have to rough in some utilities, but otherwise we're not impacting.
so Ray, when the building was built, which was quite a while ago, I'm not sure what the original intent was, but the breezeway is actually an ideal space to enclose to build more, in this case, a laboratory, a backup skater room as part of that. So yeah, like Ray said, what we're also planning is to create some covered open area, maybe like an outside covered area that the staff can assemble, take breaks. Although right now with COVID-19, we don't want them to congregate around. You can see in this picture, there's picnic tables in the breezeways. We actually don't want them to congregate on the picnic table, taking a break or eating their lunch. That's not conducive under the pandemic. But yeah, so we're going to make some provisions to replace the other uses for this area. But when we did the alternatives analysis between building a new building versus enclosing the breezeway, this became the much more advantageous location.
I just assume you don't have any circulation issues of people getting across the building and now having to walk all the way around.
Ingress and egress to the building is actually on the sides of the building through stairways. So
Okay.
it doesn't impact that.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? I have a couple. So as far as the special expendable fund, and we talk about lapse, when the funds lapse, can you elaborate on
Sure.
what that means?
So last year there was 12.83 million appropriated for this Kalawahine Reservoir project in fiscal year 2019 to 2020. But because we didn't make an award last quarter, the funding wasn't spent, so it just rolls right back into the special expendable funds balance. Just rolls forward.
Okay, and these funds just basically remain in the account. There's no conditions attached.
So the special X fund is, because it is made up of the water systems facility charges, they can only be used for expansion projects. So they can only be used to expand our capacity.
Capacity expansion
Yeah.
projects. Storage capacity, source capacity.
Yeah.
Pipeline transmission capacity.
Okay,
So those are the only strings attached, but yeah, otherwise the funding remains.
And a good point to note that this special expendable fund is where we accumulate the impact fee payments. With the affordable housing, and I respect the board, decision to waive charges for affordable housing and homeless units. Part of those charges that are waived would have contributed toward this fund.
okay, but it's not like in reference to like federal funding or grants where if it lapses, you lose it. It's not.
No. Same thing with our operating budget. If we don't expend all our operating funds, those lapse on the current year when it ends, but they are carried forward to the next year.
Okay, so it's more like a deferral
Yes.
as opposed to a lapse, is it? You
Yeah,
lose it?
sorry, maybe
Not
lapse
a true
is
lapse and lose.
yeah,
Okay,
not a
alright.
lapse and lose.
Okay,
The only funds we have that actually have like a time period set are those improvement funds. By bond, when we issue revenue bonds, we have to spend and encumber the funds within a certain time frame.
Right.
But the operating fund and the special expendable fund, if we don't spend, it just goes right back into the pot to be reappropriated and spent later.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My other one I was going to ask for is that Maka Kilo, is that the adjustment, Maka Kilo adjustment?
Yes, so there is, oh, I'm sorry.
It's toward the end.
In contract adjustments account,
Yes.
we're increasing $1.5
Yes.
million for the Maka Kilo Water System Improvement Project, Part 3.
Yes.
So that's a current and ongoing construction project, but due to some paving requirements that are placed on the department, by the Departments of Design and Construction and Facility Maintenance that were not known at the time of award. We're actually going to need to process a change order to our contractor for about $1.5 million to handle those extra paving requirements.
I see. Okay. Okay. So it was something that were not known when we initially made the estimate or the bid. and then-
When we
the
bid out-
project started, we were not aware of that condition until more recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve or to authorize this public hearing to consider this amendment at our next board meeting, which will be held at 2 p.m. Monday, September 28th.
So move.
Second.
All right, so moved by Member Sasamura and second by Vice Chair Sproat. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, and I do note that there are no further testimony, either by phone or otherwise. Okay, I'm going to call for the question. Madam Secretary, could we please take a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapua-Sproat,
Aye.
Board Member Ray Soon,
Aye.
Board Member Ross Sasamura,
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai,
Aye.
and Board Member Max Sword,
Aye.
and Chair Brian Anzaya.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 6 ayes.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Secretary. All right, we are now going to move on to our next item requiring board action. This is the adoption of resolution number 912-2020. This is naming Mr. Kevin Ihu 2020 Manager of the Year. Manager Doc?
Thank you, Chair. We'd like to just ask the board to recognize Kevin Ihu. He's the Program Administrator of our Water System Operations Division, responsible to operate the entire island's water system. And he's the guy that keeps the water flowing in the pipes. Kevin, can you come in the room, please?
I also want to mention, I think Kevin is head of the HWWA chapter or chair?
Chair of the Hawaii section of the AWWA, American Water Works Association, and also the president of the Hawaii Rural Water Association. Yeah. So he wears many hats and does an excellent job in keeping our water systems operating even under different stressful times. Just want to recognize Kevin. Chair, would you like me to read the resolution or how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, let's maybe let's get the resolution on record.
Okay, I'll do my best here. Kevin, you can just stay right there on camera. So Kevin Ihu, 2020 Manager of the Year. Whereas Kevin Ihu, Program Administrator of our Water System Operations Division, WSO, has been selected as the Board of Water Supplies Manager of the Year for 2020. Whereas this is an honor that also personifies the Henry Perrine Baldwin High School maroon and blue alma mater for fair and true Maui represent. Kevin's actually from Maui. Whereas Mr. Ihu successfully leads a division of 3 distinct branches: plant operations, telecommunications, and automotive. by facilitating, and this is his management style, he facilitates an environment that motivates all 106 staff members to stand together as a unified team to supply safe drinking water to the residents and businesses throughout Oahu. And whereas Mr. Ihu is a high-integrity, self-motivated, and supportive leader who is driven to see his team succeed, he is unequivocally has the respect and trust of his team because he is a role model type leader who can be counted on to assist in the field whenever a crisis comes up. Whereas Mr. Ihu has provided much needed support and confidence in your staff and staff supervisors by working with them to develop innovative projects to upgrade the BWS's water treatment and monitoring systems. And whereas Mr. Ihu is tirelessly and relentless in his pursuit of water industry technological advancements so that BWS can be on the cutting edge to improve its services on Oahu. Whereas in his capacity as chair of the American Water Works Association Hawaii section and board president of the Hawaii Rural Water Association, Mr. Ihu volunteers countless hours helping smaller and less developed water organizations by sharing his experience and knowledge. Whereas Mr. Ihu has proven himself to be a dedicated, dependable, and skillful manager who leads by example and personifies attributes that employees desire in their leaders, earning the respect of his subordinates, colleagues, and BWS management. Whereas Mr. Ihu's selection as the 2020 Manager of the Year and his nomination as City Manager of the Year has brought pride and honor to the BWS and all his family and friends. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the Board of Water Supply, City and County of Honolulu, that we do hereby express to Kevin Ihu our heartfelt appreciation for his outstanding service to the department and to the City and County of Honolulu. Be it resolved that the members of the board express our sincere congratulations upon his selection as the Board of Water Supply Manager of the Year for 2020. And be it resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. Ihu with our warmest aloha and best wishes for all his future endeavors. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Manager Lau. May I have a motion on the?
I move to adopt. This is Ray.
Okay, as
Yeah, this
removed
is
by
Max
Member
this time. As a second that.
Member Sword is providing a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to say something. I think this is a really big deal. Having sat in the mayor's office and watched managers of the years and employees of the years, I think sometimes we take for granted how hard these guys work and what terrific employees they are. And you know, you hear all the negative stuff in the newspaper when somebody makes a mistake, but we don't always have the opportunity to say thank you for this kind of outstanding service. So Kevin, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, anybody else? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would we proceed with the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapua Sprout.
Aye.
Board Member Ray Soon.
Aye.
Board Member Max Sword.
Aye.
Board Member Ross Sasamura.
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai.
Aye.
And Chair Brian Andaya.
Aye.
Chair, motion passes with 6 ayes.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Kevin. Very, very well deserved. I guess this is one of the things about the pandemic. Usually this would be done in front of like 400 people over at the Manana, you know, with all the employees present and everything. Unfortunately, this year we had to cancel that. So we would like to do just a quick photo up here in the boardroom. Next item here is item number 4. This is the adoption of resolution number 913-2020. And this is to recognize Ms. Stella Bernardo, 2020 Employee of the Year. Manager Lau?
Thank you, Chair. Stella Bernardo is our 2020 Employee of the Year. And I'll just read the resolution, but before I read the resolution, I just want to say that a lot of this technology that we depend on and the ability to do like Facebook Live and these other things, Vimeo, behind the scenes is somebody that helps to coordinate and be like the mastermind behind how to get this all done and how to make it work and how to make our website so user-friendly, and we get compliments about our webpage from people on the outside. And Stella's the person kind of behind all of this. So she works really quietly behind the scenes, but she's so brilliant in how she does this and just so dependable that I know that Stella will get the job done. So I just want to just say my appreciations for that. And I'll just go ahead and read the resolution and try not to butcher it as much as I did with Kevin's. But whereas Stella Bernardo, an information specialist too with the communications office, has been a dedicated and exceptional employee since she joined the Board of Water Supply in November 2015 and has been selected as a 2020 BWS Employee of the Year. And whereas Ms. Bernardo's experience and work to adapt and apply cost-effective, appropriate technology solutions at the BWS has been instrumental in improving agency operations, transparency, and accessibility. Whereas Stella has influenced and advanced the BWS's use of technology in many ways, such as strengthening its communications with Oahu's water users through expanded use of video production, social media, and other digital platforms, enabling BWS to better serve its employees and customers through the most useful digital products and services, and enhancing the department's emergency preparedness capabilities through her work to establish and grow the BWS Amateur Ham Radio Club. And whereas Ms. Bernardo is well respected by employees department-wide for her pleasant and patient ways, and especially for her willingness to assist when needed despite her heavy workload, and her numerous and outstanding accomplishments contribute to the department's ability to fulfill its mission to provide safe, reliable, and affordable water now and into the future. And whereas Stella Bernardo has been selected as our 2020 Board of Water Supply Employee of the Year and will go on to represent BWS in the upcoming City Employee of the Year recognition ceremony, bringing pride and honor to the department, her family and friends. Now therefore, be it resolved by the members of the Board of Water Supply, City and County Honolulu, that we do hereby express to Stella Bernardo our sincere appreciation for her outstanding service to the department and to the City and County of Honolulu. And be it further resolved that the members of this board express to Stella Bernardo our sincere congratulations upon her selection as Board of Water Supply Employee of the Year for 2020. Thank you, Stella. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Rajlal. May I entertain a motion to approve resolution number 913, 2020?
Chair?
Yes.
It's Kapua. Can I say something, please, before we have the motion?
Sure.
Or I guess I could do it as part of the discussion too, but I'd like to add my congratulations and gratitude. I've been very fortunate to work with Stella on a number of projects, and I can understand completely why she's earned this honor. To second what Ernie's already mentioned, we as BWS have continued to meet seamlessly during the pandemic, which can't be said for other state and county boards and commissions. And that's due in no small part to the platforms that Stella has put into place. And now, many of those agencies are actually looking to BWS as a best practice and what can and should be done, in particular to ensure public participation during this time when we need to be physically distanced. So I just wanted to add my voice and personally thank Stella for all of her hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
I so move. It's Kapua.
Yeah, this is Max, I second.
Okay. Moved by Kapua, second by Max. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Kapua Sproat,
Aye.
Board Member Ray Soon,
Aye.
Board Member Max Sword,
Aye.
Board Member Ross Asamura,
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai,
Aye.
And Chair Biden's aye.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 6 ayes.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. And Stella, I do want to especially definitely, thank you again for your excellent work. I still remember, we did Haiku stairs, remotely, and that's when the pandemic first kind of hit, and we had no model to follow, and you couldn't just help set that whole thing up. So I echo Vice Chair Sproat's comments. Thank you very much. I'm really proud, and I think I can speak for the entire board on this. Really proud to be part of an agency like BWS that is able to execute and make sure that we're accountable to the public and transparent doing what we do. We're going to move on to items for information. And the first item for information here is the update on transfer of Haiku stairs to the City and County of Honolulu. Chair recognizes Mr. Michael Matsuo.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Board members. This is Mike Matsuo from BWS Land Division. Just here today to give you an update on the transfer of Haiku stairs to the City and County of Honolulu. As of July 1st, 2020, as Ray already mentioned during her presentation, Haiku stairs and the parcels of land on which they are located were officially transferred from the Board of Water Supply to the City Department of Parks and Recreation. Attached to your information is the memorandum approving the transfer, which was signed by Mayor Caldwell on June 3rd, 2020. I'm available for any questions.
Members, any
I have a
questions?
comment. I have a question.
Go ahead, Ray.
Brian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Michael, first of all, thank you very much for the quickness in which you got that done. I really genuinely appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Secondly, I have a question. Does this mean we also have no ongoing responsibility for any security that's totally with parks now, and we have no ongoing liability?
Yes, that's correct. We stopped our security services using HPD special duty officers as of June 30th. I did check with Parks, and they have also make arrangements to have special duty officers from HPD do similar checks on the subdivisions surrounding the base of Haiku stairs, and I believe at the same hours of the day. So they've completely taken over that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, members, any further questions? All right, hearing none, just wanted to thank you very much for the report. Thank you to everyone for, it was a long, hard journey. Let's hope that that journey is, at least our part of that journey is has ended. And we'll just leave it at that for now. Not celebrate too early, but it looks like it's official.
Yes, it is, as of July 1st.
Okay, thank you very much for the report.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the next item is a financial update for the quarter ending June 30th, 2020. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, Board members. This is the financial performance report for the quarter ending June 30th. It's also actually the report for the end of our fiscal year. The actual revenue for the Board of Water Supply last year was $235.6 million. This is about $1 million over our budgeted revenue of $243 million. It is somewhat less than our revenue of last year, about $1.5 million less than we did last year, which is mostly attributable to a drop in non-residential or commercial revenue in the fourth quarter that was due to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. The operating costs were $187 million, which was $17 million less than our budget of $204 million. And finally, combining these numbers, our net revenue was $48 million, or $9 million more than our budgeted revenue of $39 million. So In summary, our revenue was pretty close, just under budget. Our operating costs were below budget. Next slide. The cost drivers, personnel was $41 million, which was 16% or $8 million under budget. This was due to vacancies. Personnel costs make up about 47% of our operating cost variances. This is pretty similar to previous years. Services and supplies is $5 million under our budgeted revenue of $56 million. And services and supplies makes up about 29% of our cost variances. Miscellaneous costs and repairs was $15 million. Equipment was $1 million under at $6 million, and utilities was pretty much on budget at $24 million. This is a slight increase over previous years. Next slide, please. This is a breakdown of some of the detail of the operating budgets by the various different divisions. And the divisions are available to answer any specific questions that you have on their variances. Okay, so, and again, much of the variances that we experience, the $18 million in variance, about half of that was is related to different salary wages and salary variances in each of the various divisions. Next slide, please. This graph shows our operating costs as a percentage of each other. Our largest operating cost was materials and supplies at 35%, representing 35% of our expenditures. This is kind of a new development. In the past, our fixed costs have been the largest percentage of our costs, but as we do more work, actually our materials and services has grown. And the next one is fixed cost. Fixed cost is 28% of our total costs, or about $52 million. This represents things like case fees and retirement, post-retirement employee benefits. Our third cost is personnel services, 22%, or $41 million. Debt service is $22 million, or 12%. And expenditures are 3%, or $6 million. Next slide, please. This graph shows our operating costs compared to budget. Far left, you can see that, again, personnel services is about 16% under budget, and material and supplies is about 10% under budget. It is up, however, as I mentioned earlier, from last year. Equipment, although it's smaller, in the middle, and variance isn't noticeable, is about 16% under budget. Debt service and fixed charges are both within 1% under budget. Next slide, please. This shows our operating costs compared to our budget on both a monthly and a year-to-date basis. On a year-to-date, we can see that our operating costs are about 8.3% under budget. Our operating costs range from around $10 to $20 million a year. Next slide, please. And then finally, we can look at revenue. Our revenue, again, year-to-date and by month, our revenues are about 3% under budget cumulatively for the year. Most of our variances, you can notice at the far right of the three graphs where our revenue did drop in the last 3 months of the year. Again, this was due to the decrease in revenue from, we expect from COVID-related changes to our economy. Revenue was under budget also in July. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Members, any questions? Okay, well, hearing none, I think thank you very much for the report, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on now to the next item for information here. It's a capital improvement program quarterly update for fiscal year 2020. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason Takaki.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya and board members. This is the quarterly capital improvement program report for all divisions of the Board of Water Supply for the fourth quarter ending June 30th, 2020. So in the fourth quarter, 58 contracts were awarded, totaling $95 million. Also during the quarter, there were 2 project completions. And if we go to the next page, this is the detail of the awards and the completions. Now, as Joe mentioned, the fourth quarter is the end of the fiscal year. So for the FY20 fiscal year, a total of 90 contract awards encumbered $119 million. And the total FY20 projects budget was just over $127 million. So this represents an encumbrance rate for FY20 of 93.7%. And that is the quarterly report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the next item. Next item, and by the way, if I don't recognize any public testimony, that means that there is none. Next is the revisions to the fiscal year 2019-2020 Capital Improvement Program CIP. Chair recognizes Ms. Raylin Nakabayashi.
Hello, Chair and members. Thank you. This is our presentation to the board on revisions to the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 CIP Capital Improvement Program budget. So they're outlined for you in detail in this letter, but if you'd indulge me, I have a PowerPoint. So Resolution 896-2019 was adopted by the board and appropriated $166,305,000 for our CIP for fiscal 2019 to 2020. The resolution gives the manager and chief engineer the authority to adjust funding of the CIP, provided that the total appropriation remains the same. So, Budget Amendment 1 included the deletion and deferral of projects so that we could continue or move the funding into our contract adjustments account, and we could continue awarding projects in our fiscal 2020 CIP without causing delays to the overall construction schedule. Budget Amendment 2 deferred and reprogrammed projects for future years, and this enabled us to award an emergency repair project for Mililani Wells 1, pump number 4. Budget Amendment number 3 deferred and removed programming of funding for projects to award a change order on the energy savings performance contract. And finally, Budget Amendment number 4 deferred and reprogrammed funding so that we could make award on project number 20-22, which is the rehabilitation of pipeline tunnels, Maunalua and Quarry. And this is, sorry it's so small, but a summary of the amendments for you folks on the screen. So Amendment 1, as I mentioned, deferred all of these projects, move everything into contract adjustments account. Amendment 2 removed these projects, the funding attributable to these projects, move the funding to contract adjustments account. Amendment 3 deleted funding for these projects and moved it into contract adjustments account. And Amendment 4 did the same thing. Do you have any questions? Oh, and I'm sorry, I guess the main thing, bottom line total remained in all of the funds the same as it was as you adopted it, just the funding was shifted between projects.
All right, thank you for the report. Members, any questions?
I have one question for Ray.
Okay.
Ray, who negotiates the change orders for the contract adjustment account?
So the change orders are, I guess, negotiated by the project engineers and that are in charge of the projects, subject to the approval of the manager.
Okay, so Ernie's got the final word on those.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much for the report. We're going to move to the next item, and Ray, you're in the hot seat again. This is the Board of Water Supply updates on COVID-19 response efforts.
Yep, so thank you for allowing me to present our presentation on our COVID-19 response efforts. This is essentially the Board of Water Supply workplace after COVID-19, our new normal, and it's updates to date on our response efforts. So in general, COVID-19 is thought to spread mainly through close contact from person to person, and the best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to COVID-19. To do so, you should maintain good social and physical distance from people, staying about 6 feet apart, washing your hands often with soap and water. If soap and water are not available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol, and routinely cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. Since March, or February-March, when this all began, we've been doing as much as we can to educate, inform, and communicate with our staff. We do this through daily updates to our staff via our intranet and our news to use page. This includes Department of Health daily updates, any news from the city, safety updates and resources for themselves. And we do consistent and regular messaging through our communications office. This provides our staff a single point of contact and ensures effective and accurate information is disseminated. We also vary our means of communication. So we use our intranet, like I mentioned. We write letters to our staff. We issue memorandums periodically. We were posting videos to the intranet for staff to watch and learn, I guess, about COVID-19. We do bulletins, and we place signage around our campus. We've also implemented a lot of safety practices and communicated them. We've got such as like our sick employee procedures, information on Families First Coronavirus Response Act, so FFCRA leaves. We also encourage social distancing through employing flex scheduling and telework. So we've been following and implementing guidance based on this OSHA document. It's the OSHA 3990, which is guidance on preparing workplaces for COVID-19. It essentially covers 4 main points, the first of which implementing basic infection prevention measures. So some examples of what we've been doing to implement basic infection prevention measures is we do promote frequent and thorough hand washing by providing our workers, customers, and visitors with a place to wash their hands. We also provide to our staff and customers alcohol-based hand rubs containing at least 60% alcohol. There's a picture, I think it's the second picture from the left, which is a hand sanitizer dispensing station, which we have all across our facilities. We've also implemented procedures to encourage our workers to stay home if they're feeling sick. We've also made FFCRA leave available to those who qualify. We educate our employees about respiratory etiquette, including covering their coughs and sneezes. We implement flexible work sites, so telecommuting and flexible work hours, like staggered shifts to increase social distance, physical distance between our staff. Where possible, we discourage the use of all shared equipment. When not possible, we provide cleaning supplies so that the equipment can be cleaned before and after use. And we've implemented an increased schedule for routine cleaning of all of our common areas. And we also issued all of our divisions additional cleaning supplies for their staff to use to clean their personal workstations. So the next thing that the OSHA 3990 talks about is a procedure for prompt identification of sick people. So as I mentioned, we've provided and continue to refine and update sick employee procedures and guidelines. We encourage and mandate actually regular information sharing between our program administrators and their subordinate managers and supervisors. We abide by all physical distancing guidance by using technology, and we remain in contact with our subordinate staff on an at least weekly basis to discuss anything related to COVID-19 and any policy changes. We found this to be something we have to continue to do as the situation continues to evolve and develop. So talking to our staff weekly, at least weekly, has been helpful. We also established procedures for handling COVID-19 cases in the workplace. We have questionnaires that managers use in the event an employee reports to work sick or is asked to stay home because they are sick. We gather as much information as we can using these questionnaires and the guidance that we provide to our program administrators and subordinate supervisors to gather as much information as we can, and we consult with either the city's infectious disease officer or the city's physician. We've also participated last Wednesday already, so August 12th, we had voluntary COVID screening here at our Beretania campus. We ran that from, it's like 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon out here, and it was open to our employees that work in this complex. We're working to organize other such events at other courtyards or make it accessible to people who don't work here at Beretania. The OSHA 3990 also talks about implementing and communicating workplace flexibilities and protections. So some of the administrative changes we've been making, we, like I mentioned before, actively encourage our sick employees to stay home. We are in regular communication with all of our staff through their managers. Board of Water Supply has instituted a business travel moratorium, so none of our staff are currently traveling. We've suspended representation at neighborhood board meetings. We screen all of our visitors to our campus. We use telework and flex scheduling. We've provided those additional cleaning supplies that I mentioned. So pictured on the screen is a fleet vehicle cleaning station located by our courtyard, and additional cleaning supplies is an example next to a copier machine, which is shared equipment for all staff. We also provided 10 cloth face coverings per employee, and we issue regular communication every time we're issuing out supplies like face coverings. And the last thing the OSHA 3990 talked about was implementing workplace controls. So occupational safety and health professionals use a framework called hierarchy of controls to select ways of controlling workplace hazards. The best way to control a hazard is to systematically remove it from the workplace rather than relying on your workers to reduce their own exposure. So during a COVID-19 outbreak, when it's not possible to eliminate the hazard, the most effective protection measures, from most effective to least effective, are engineering controls, administrative controls, and then personal protective equipment. So our management decisions on what kind of workplace controls to institute here at the Board of Water Supply are based on how we classify our worker exposure. All the Board of Water Supply employees fall into either low exposure or medium exposure risk categories. Low exposure is defined as jobs that don't require contact with people known to be or suspected of being infected with COVID, or frequent contact with the public. Workers in this category have minimal occupational contact with the public and other coworkers. Medium exposure risk employees do have frequent or close contact with people who may be infected with COVID, but are not known or suspected to COVID-19 patients. And in areas where there's ongoing community transmission, workers in this category may have contact with the general public. Okay, so for jobs classified at lower exposure risk, what we can do to protect our workers. So engineering controls are not recommended for workers in this category. Additionally, PPE is not recommended, additional PPE anyway, is not recommended for workers in this group. So in this category, administrative controls like those we discussed are enough. For those that are at medium exposure risk though, engineering controls such as physical barriers are recommended. Administrative controls like limiting customer and public access to the worksite is recommended, minimizing face-to-face contact, and issuing PPE should be done based on a job hazard analysis. Some examples of what we're doing to keep our workplace safe. So we don't allow anybody into our facilities without a face covering. This includes our own staff. We also have signage about practicing social distancing to remind everyone to maintain an appropriate 6-foot distance from other people while in our facilities or while at work. We've also closed all of our lunch and break rooms, so there's no congregating. We have plans review, drop off and pick up, so that's the bottom left-hand side of your screen. All of that's occurring outside of the building now, so customers or people needing plans review actually need not interact at all face-to-face with our staff. They drop off their plans. My security officers call customer care to let them know their plans that were dropped off. Customer care staff will get them, review them, and then call the customer to come pick them back up. We also aren't accepting payment in the lobby anymore. So the top right-hand picture is where people can drop off their payments that they were originally making in the lobby. And like what we're doing now, we've limited the ways people can testify while still trying to maintain transparency and availability in our board meetings. So while they can't come here anymore to provide testimony, we've given them extra options to provide their testimony online, via phone, and some more examples. Our lobby being shut down actually gave us the opportunity to do a renovation in the lobby, which we installed plexiglass barriers, created socially distanced workstations. We installed, or well, not installed, they just put a sticker on the ground, but there are social distancing floor markers here. So when we do reopen our lobby, people will know where to stand, how to flow through it safely. And that's all I have on COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Members, any questions? Okay, I just have a couple of quick ones. What percentage working from home right now of our people?
As of right now, we have approximately 140 staff members that are working on some sort of telework arrangement. The telework arrangements can be either full-time or part-time with rotation into the office on staggered days, so that way we can maximize the amount of social distancing. The determination as to who is able to telework is based on many factors, and it's dependent on basically what the actual position is and whether or not the position and the person are suitable for being able to work on telework.
I see. Okay.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to the next item. Thank you for the report, Rain.
Thank you.
Item number 6. This is the update on BWS delinquency program. And Chair recognizes Jennifer Elflin.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Board members. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on our delinquencies. First, I'd like to start off with some general information. We fill an average of 160,000 accounts per month, $228 million a year. Payment is due within 20 days of billing, and any balances that are not paid are considered past due. It is our collections and credit and call center personnel who collect debt and work with our customers to bring past due accounts current. In certain situations, with proper written notice, we may shut off water for non-payment. So, as you know, it was in March of this year that our governor and mayor began issuing emergency orders related to COVID, and the World Health Organization characterized COVID-19 as a pandemic. In April, we saw the unemployment rate increase. Next. The first thing that we did here at the Board of Water Supply in the interest of health and safety was to suspend water shutoffs due to non-payment. In addition, we looked back to see which accounts we had closed and contacted those customers to see if they needed water service reinstated. Then we looked at what our customers commonly contact us about and how they interact with us. We did several things. Next slide there. Okay. So our communications office helped us immediately begin issuing news releases and social media posts with key messages. We created a new on-hold message for those customers who were calling into the Board of Water Supply for assistance. We wanted to let them know that in addition to calling us, they can check us out on our website and also email us. We were concerned about the possibility of an unexpected influx of calls and wanted to offer our customers alternatives. So we also updated our website in 3 ways, and I'll show you examples of the website pages in just a moment. We created an information center, and that is where we present links to commonly requested information and services. We also added a support page. That page is geared with information to our customers who have been faced with a COVID-related financial hardship. The other thing we did was to create a payment arrangement request form so that our customers who needed to make installment payment could submit their requests either online or via mail. We created a special phone number so that COVID affected customers could call and be paired with representatives who are trained and ready to assist them. And we started notating in our account information system those customers who notified us that they were experiencing a financial hardship due to COVID. And that would allow us to do targeted communication. Next slide. So our key messages is that there is no disruption in water service due to non-payment through September 30th of this year, and we will reassess the situation each month and extend the deadline if necessary. Customers can expect to hear from us through additional news releases, through the updates on our website, and also through social media. We will never shut off water without first giving them advance notice. I'd like to point out that this does not apply to those who are using water without first having set up an account. That's considered unauthorized water use, and we will shut off water service in such instances. We strongly encourage customers to pay their balance and keep it as low as possible, pay whatever they can as often as they can. And we let them know that financial support may be available to them. We ask that they contact us to let us know of their situation and keep their contact information up to date so that we can reach them. Next slide. So this is an example of our homepage, and you'll see below the graphic on the left-hand side, there's a link to the Information Center and also to the support programs. Next slide. This is the Information Center page with the links that I mentioned to commonly requested services and information. Next slide. And the support programs page for those who are in need of financial assistance. This is where they can obtain the payment arrangement request form that can either be completed online or they can print it and send it back to us by mail. This is the actual payment arrangement request form. So the form can also be used by those who are not affected by a COVID-19 financial reason. Next slide. So financial assistance programs are available, and individuals can apply for the city's COVID-19 hardship and COVID-19 Hardship and Relief Fund. They can also contact the Aloha United Way and the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. These programs are rather fluid, so they receive funds and they can be depleted very quickly. State and other agencies are trying to create programs to help customers as well. Recently, we were made aware of about $80,000 that can be used towards water and wastewater services. So we are communicating that to our customers. In addition to individuals, small businesses can also apply for the relief and recovery fund that the city put together. Next slide. So this is an example of a letter that we sent a couple of weeks ago to the customers who specifically notified us that they were experiencing a COVID-related financial hardship. So in this letter, we reiterate the key messages that I just shared with you. And in addition to that, we have on the right-hand side what's called a Babel notice. And what this notice does is informs people who may speak English as a second language that interpretation services are available. And that's at no charge to them. They just need to call any of our published numbers and we can help them. So we mailed about 270 letters a couple of weeks ago. Next slide. We also work with the communications office to create a flyer to let customers know of the various ways they can pay their bills. And that's what you see here, the flyer. Next slide. And so this pie chart shows that our customers commonly pay us through automatic bill payment. That's the deduction from the automatic deduction from their checking or their savings account. They also commonly pay us by mail, called the lockbox service. So they detach the remittance stub and stick in the envelope with their check payment and mail it off. The third most common way is to pay online, and that's either through the Board of Water Supply's portal or through their financial institution's banking application. Okay, so given the circumstances, we are naturally concerned that the impact the current economy has on the impact that our current economy will have on our ability to collect on water sales. So we are tracking and monitoring the delinquent accounts, and we're collecting payments to the extent possible. So now I'll go over some of the data. This slide shows the historical number of accounts that are 30 or more days past due. So as you see, the total number of past due accounts to the total number of accounts we have is generally in the 11% range. Our write-offs are equal to 0.2% of our annual operating revenue, about $460,000 a year. Okay, so here we present the number of residential accounts that are delinquent, and that number is relatively flat. The dollar amount of residential accounts that are past due has bumped up a bit in 2020. We continue to track and monitor this, and we're taking action such as the recent mail out that I just mentioned. This chart shows the total number of non-residential accounts that are delinquent. We saw a peak in April and May, and that number subsequently decreased. We can only speculate that the decline may be because of the reopening of some businesses and the launch of the city's Small Business Relief and Recovery Fund. The total dollar amount of non-residential delinquencies has also increased a bit, so we continue to track and monitor this segment of customers as well. Staff have begun initiating calls and conversations with these customers, and they've finished the first list today, and soon we'll be generating letters. I'm sorry, I missed one thing. I wanted to mention that it's important that to know that our staff will contact customers by phone about their accounts and inform them of the need to pay. However, they will never demand on-the-spot payment. Instead, customers will receive options on how to pay their bill, just like I showed in the prior slide, and the customer will take that action after they conclude the phone call. So in summary, the number of delinquencies are generally within a normal range, and the dollar amount of those past due accounts have increased a bit. We will continue to track and monitor the numbers, and we'll work with our customers to collect payment and, where needed, establish mutually agreeable payment arrangements. Any questions?
Members, any questions? Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, number 7, status update of groundwater levels at all index stations for June and July 2020. Chair recognizes Mr. Barry Usagawa.
For in the July report, for the month of June, we had 2 aquifer index wells in low groundwater status, Punaluu in caution and Kamaki in alert status. And the total production was 148 million gallons per day. Rainfall was 68% of normal in June. The forward moving average was 72%. The National Weather Service's forecast remains unchanged, predicting below normal rainfall through September. For July, we find that Kamaki went out of alert and back into caution. The production went down by 3 MGD to 145 million gallons per day. We had more rainfall in July, and that was attributed to Hurricane Douglas, that weather system. It could be used more rain, but thank God we didn't have the wind. It brought the monthly time moving average up to 77%. Nothing else has changed beyond that. That's my report, and I'll be available for any questions.
Members, any questions at this time? If not, thank you, Barry, for the report. Okay, finally, last item here, item number 8. This is the water main repair report for June and July 2020. Chair recognizes Mr. Mike Fuki.
Looking at June, we had 26 main breaks, giving us a total of 349 breaks for the fiscal year. It's a little high in number, but if you look at the months of August and September, for some reason that we're not able to determine, but those 2 months we had what I consider as a really high number of breaks. Last month we had 32 main breaks. In June we had the Haiku 24-inch main break, but this was located close to Haihahoni. And now looking at July main break on Cala Highway by Port Lot area, where we had a 24-inch main break, and also we had a 30-inch main break out in Haula. Our main that takes water from Punaluu broke up there. All 3 were bad breaks. A lot of excavation that needed to be done. A lot of repair work needed to be done. Looking for the mains of 6, 8, and 12-inch, it took us approximately 16 hours to repair those. Looking at the month of July, our leak detection team surveyed approximately 13 miles, but they did find 1 service leak, and surprisingly they found 5 main leaks that we repaired all of them before they turned into bad breaks. Happy to entertain any questions.
Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, well, thank you very much, Mike, for the report.
Okay, thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda today. I just want to thank everyone for their patience. I know it was a longer meeting than normal. If there's anything that that the department or anybody can provide in terms of information, or maybe you forgot something, or please feel free to reach out. We'll try to get that response to you as soon as possible. Next month, we're trying to clear some things out here. So I know some of you requested a couple of agenda items. If it didn't make it on this month because of our cancellation from the last month, it should be on for the next month. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move. Second. Sorry, that was very soon. Seconding.
Yeah, this is Jade. I was the one that moved.
Madam Secretary, did you get that? Yes. Is there any discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, please take a roll call vote.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapua-Spro.
Aye.
Board Member Ray Soon.
Aye.
Board Member Ross Hasamura.
Aye.
Board Member Jade Butai.
Aye.
Board Member Max Sword.
Aye.
And Chair Brian Antaya.
Aye.
Chair, motion passes with 6 ayes.
Okay, everybody, that concludes the meeting. Thank you very much. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon.